Welcome to part 1 of Gateway Virtual Academy Teacher Training. My name is Shannon Holden from newteacherhelp.com and edweb.net. Good to talk to you all again. We did a couple of sessions back in February, so I am glad to be back with you today. For those of you who may have forgotten, I have taught math and U.S. history for 8 years in Texas, been an assistant principal for the past 17 years in Texas and Missouri. I teach classes at Missouri State University, Lindenwood University, online classes for the University of North Dakota and the University of the Pacific. Today we're going to talk about how to encourage students to think critically using a great free app called Recap. We're also going to help students study on their own with a free app called Quizlet. And we're going to talk about why teachers get burned out, and hopefully we can talk about how to reduce stress and help you enjoy teaching a little bit more than you might already be enjoying teaching. We have free advice for you at this link. It's a Dropbox folder called Huge Teacher Giveaway. All of the resources in that Dropbox folder are free. You can download them to your computer and use them whenever you like. There's a classroom discipline plan on there, earning respect from students by explaining why your rules exist, how to contact parents without getting them upset at you. So the first thing we want to talk about is Recap. Recap is a free app that students can use on their phone, and you as the teacher can make a class and ask questions of your students, and your students can answer the questions using their phones by videoing themselves. If you want to sign up as a student to try it out, I would use my personal email, and if you want to sign up as a teacher, use your school email. So Recap allows teachers to ask open-ended questions. Recap allows teachers to specify how much time the students have to answer the question, either 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, or 2 minutes. Recap allows students to answer questions via video. They can record their answers on a phone, an iPad, a Chromebook. Because Recap allows teachers to ask open-ended questions, this app creates opportunities for critical thinking. And we'll brainstorm some possible critical thinking style questions near the end of this particular segment. If you'll notice on my phone, the app is a red icon with a little face with eyes on it looking up. It's called Recap, and people simply click on that and it'll take you right inside the app. I am actually in a class that's being taught by my boss, Mrs. Herbold, and the class is called The Leader in Me Book Study 2017, and I have answered 2 questions for Mrs. Herbold so far. She has put the questions into Recap, and then and there's me inside of the phone. I click on Respond Now, which is the button right underneath the question, and then it counts down 3, 2, 1, and then I have the opportunity to answer the questions that she asked. And after I answer the questions, my answers pop up on the teacher's phone, and my teacher views my video, and then she can give me kind of input on what she thinks about my answers. So the student view of what I look like, you'll notice that when I recorded my answer for Chapter 1, I had my phone held the wrong way. That's kind of embarrassing, but I decided to keep the video because I gave a great answer. So there's me answering Chapter 2, and the question was, in 2 minutes or less, give a summary of Chapter 2. Give examples of how ideas in Chapter 2 can be utilized in our building. And so I just sat down, and you can use Recap anywhere. I was just in my kitchen, and I gave my teacher an answer to the question. The teacher can click on a little icon on my answer, and she can tell me how I did. And she liked my answer. She said, "Thanks for sharing your thoughts on Chapter 1. And hopefully we can implement the things that you said in your answer in our building. So Mrs. Herbold, the teacher, this is what her dashboard looks like, and she can view this on her computer or on her phone, on an iPad, on a Chromebook. And she's got 2 classes that she teaches, although one of them is a demo class, which just kind of gives her an opportunity to play around with the system. The other class that she teaches is called The Leader in Me, and she has 2 students in that class. So when she opens up the class, The Leader in Me Book Study 2017, that she teaches, she sees answers from her students, and she can click on those and listen and watch as her students give her the answers to her questions. You'll also notice a green button on the right-hand side of her screen that says Add Recap, and what that is when she clicks on that green button, she has the opportunity to write a question for her students, and that question will pop up on all of her students' phones, and then they'll be able to answer that question. So I gave an answer for Chapter 2. I thought it was really good. And if the teacher likes the answer, the teacher can share that answer with all the other students in the class. The teacher can share that answer with anybody who has an email address, actually. You can tweet it out using Twitter. You can email it to anybody you want, or you can just send the link to that answer, maybe to your students' parents. Maybe your students' parents are always wondering how their child is doing in your class, and you can send them the link to their child's answer and say, now look at what your child did. Isn't that awesome? So you can just click on the button that says Get Web Link, and you can send that link via email to anybody you want. It's really very easy to use. As a matter of fact, this particular page gives you the code that if somebody wanted to join this class, all they would have to do is go to letsrecap.com/classpin and then enter in the code KEUSYUS. And if you enter in that code, you are automatically entered into this particular class, which is called The Leader in Me, and you would have access to all of the materials in that class. You'd be able to see how your classmates are doing, what kind of answers they're giving to the questions, the teacher's responses to those answers, and it's just a great way to use a free tool to get students to think critically about what it is that you're trying to ask and then give you creative answers. And they can do all of that on their phone. So creating a new recap, so if I'm the teacher and I want to give a question, if I click on Create New Recap, I get this screen, and you'll see there's a place right next to the word Home where I can type in my question. I can type multiple questions if I want to, and then I give instructions on how to answer the question, and I click Next. So when I'm creating a new recap, I can ask a specific question, specify the maximum amount of time that students can use to answer the question. Sometimes I only need 15 seconds to answer my questions, or I can go all the way up to 2 minutes. I can specify when the assignment is due. Either in 30 minutes or a day or 7 days is the maximum amount of time. Then there's also a way for students to give their own self-assessment of how they did. They can say, I got it, or I partially got it, or I can click, I didn't get it. And that can give the teacher some valuable input on whether or not they need to reteach. And really, it is one screen easy. You can see the slot where you can make the recording time per question. You can set the due date, and you can include a student self-assessment. So that's how easy it is. It only takes one screen to make a question. So think about what you're teaching right now. Could you ask students an open-ended question about the material that they are teaching, that you're teaching? Think of 2 open-ended questions that you could ask your students that would promote critical thinking in your class. If you would like to pause this video and think about 2 open-ended questions, maybe you want to talk amongst yourselves, you certainly can do that. But just think about what it is that you're teaching and how your students react to it, and how you could ask them something using this particular app. How long would be the maximum amount of time you would give for students to record their answer? Would you have them complete the assignment immediately, or would you let them think about it and answer it later? Some of the sample questions that I thought of just off the top of my head were: explain 2 push factors and 2 pull factors that increased immigration to the United States during the early 20th century. I'm an old history teacher. I also taught math. So these are the ones that kind of popped into my head. How did states' rights cause the Civil War? Explain how the rules of subtraction of integers is different from the rules for multiplication of integers. Explain the difference between a common noun and a proper noun. Why is one capitalized and the other one isn't? Explain why hunters say they are doing people a favor by shooting deer. Why did Italy switch sides during World War I? Why did Italy switch sides during World War II? So that's Recap. It's a great app, totally free. Another great app that's totally free that allows students to study on their own time is called Quizlet. One great thing about Quizlet is the teacher does not have to make anything for students to study. Everything that a student could possibly want to know or study for your class is already contained in Quizlet. You can access Quizlet by going to www.quizlet.com. You can access it from your desktop, from your laptop, from your phone, from your iPad, from your Chromebook. You can download the app for your smartphone or tablet on Google Play or the iTunes App Store. There are 2 ways to help your students study. You can find materials for your subject area, or you can make study materials yourself. Now, I'm not discouraging people from making their own study materials, but truly, Quizlet is so gigantic that you probably will never have to make materials for yourself, but I'm going to talk about how to make those things anyway, just in case. Students can also make their own study materials and store them inside of Quizlet. It's very easy to do. So let's pretend I'm searching for a topic, like a math topic, maybe the order of operations. So you go into Quizlet, you type in what you want to learn about into the search bar, order of operations, and you're going to see the search results are, 5,000 sets of order of operations materials. And they just give you a list, and they tell you who made them, and they tell you how good they are and how many people are using them. You can search by subject. You can search arts and literature, languages and vocabulary, math and science, history, geography, standardized tests, professional and careers. The math and science screen talks about chemistry, engineering, life sciences, mathematics, health sciences. It's gigantic. Lots of materials for your students. Let's say you're teaching chemistry and you want to teach about acids and bases, atoms, chemicals, chemical formulas, compounds, electrons, gases, ions, the periodic table. Maybe you want your students to study for standardized tests. You've got advanced placement biology, calculus, chemistry, Chinese, English, Japanese, psychology, Spanish, ACT, SAT, the GRE, the GED. There's even a driver's education tab. where your students can study. If you can't find what it is that you need for your students to study, as I said earlier, you can make it yourself. All you do is click on Create a New Set, give it a title, give it a description, and then enter the terms. You can also choose a language. You don't have to use English. You can use any language you want in Quizlet, and it allows you to do that. So you name it, you write a description, you determine who can see your set. You can determine if your students can edit the set. I say just starting out, maybe you don't let the students edit your work. Choose the language, enter the information, and you're good to go. Flashcards are a very popular way for students to study, and here are some flashcards for their multiplication tables. Your students might be more advanced than this, but the multiplication tables go all the way up to 12 times 12. And you will see that there are several different games that students can play in order to make learning fun. One cool game is called Scatter. If you'll notice on the screen, there are rectangles all over the place, and what students can do is drag the answer to the problems. If you'll notice near the top it says 5 times 10. Students will look around for an answer for 5 times 10, which is 50, and then using their finger or the cursor on their computer, they can drag the 50 up to 5 times 10 and have those two rectangles touch, which will make the two rectangles disappear. And the object of the game is to make all of the rectangles disappear as quickly as possible. 2 slides exist that contain information that matches. So you got questions and answers, multiplication facts, words and definitions. They drag them so that they touch, and then those 2 rectangles disappear. And the game keeps track of how fast it takes the students can take to make all of the rectangles disappear, and they can actually have competitions to see who's fastest. There's another cool game called Race. You'll notice there's a rectangle, and it's going to move from the left-hand side of the screen all the way to the right-hand side of the screen. And as it's moving across the screen, students are asked for the answer to whatever it is to solve that problem. And hopefully they can answer it before the rectangle makes its way to the other side of the screen. If it hits the other side of the screen, the student loses. And you can compare your score with your classmates. So that is Quizlet. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the new teacher cycle. I don't know how many of you today are new teachers, but the information that we're going to learn in this segment is applicable to all teachers, not just new teachers. But the new teacher cycle is written by Ellen Moore in 1990, describes the phases a first-year teacher goes through, and many new teachers describe these phases exactly as they appear on the chart. So if you're a teacher, and the more experience you have as a teacher, the flatter this line gets. But for new teachers, you go through several different phases, and you'll notice along the bottom of the screen, it's got the months of the school year along the bottom: August, September, October, November, December. You'll notice that your morale is the lowest in October, November, December. So what are the phases? Phase 1 is anticipation. The teacher completes their student teaching experience and imagines themselves as the person in charge. Most people have a notion of what teaching will be. Maybe they've seen teaching in the movies or heard about it from friends, and they don't really know for sure how difficult teaching is. Phase 2, the first month or 2 of teaching, they go into what is called phase 2, which is survival. Constantly writing new lessons, grading papers, working 70 hours a week, and saying, my goodness, I'm going through a lot of stuff. I have to work very long hours. I have to work very hard. I'm bombarded with problems that I'm not prepared for. But I'm going to keep a positive attitude because I know eventually things are going to get better. The craziness is going to subside. But then they hit phase 3, which is disillusionment, and they say, it's not slowing down. 6 to 8 weeks have gone by. The pace is not slowing down. The teacher usually gets sick during this period because they are not getting enough sleep. They're probably not eating right. They're not exercising. Friends and family complain about the lack of time that they're getting to spend with that person. And keeping up with the amount of work involved in teaching online causes stress. The teacher falls behind and finds it difficult to catch up. You end up writing lesson plans at the last minute, and that's stressful. But phase 4, rejuvenation, comes usually during winter break. It gives people a time to rest. It makes some lessons kind of work ahead a little bit, spend time with family and friends. The teacher's attitude improves. And rejuvenation also leads to the teacher developing coping strategies and mechanisms and having a better understanding of the system. And the teacher's focus turns to long-term curriculum planning and teaching strategies. You're not writing lessons at the last minute, undergoing a lot of stress. Phase 5 is reflection. In May, the teacher realizes that they're going to make it. The teacher reflects on what worked and what did not work. And the teacher plans on how things will be different next year. So that's the new teacher cycle, because anticipation begins for the next school year. So what do teachers want? The Gates Foundation surveyed 40,000 teachers and found that supportive leadership is the number one answer. Time to collaborate with their colleagues, access to high-quality curriculum and resources, clean and safe buildings, and relevant professional development. Hopefully you're finding this professional development relevant. How to fix the problems you face? Your 70-hour work weeks, you need to cut them down. Cut down the number of hours you work. Don't grade every assignment. Maybe just give points for turning it in, participation points. Share lesson planning with a colleague. Find videos online that teach your concepts. Those can be found at Khan Academy, TED Ed, Sophia. You can't work in isolation because then you feel as though you're facing these problems alone. Join edweb.net. It's free. Develop friendships. When you're feeling down, think about the new teacher cycle and say to yourself, everybody's going through this, not just me. Count the days till the weekend or your next day off. Count the days until winter break, spring break. Try some of these methods to relax. Take a walk. Research has shown that just walking around the park or your neighborhood can reduce stress. Exercise. Walk fast. Maybe even jog. You can work some of the stress out. Jump rope, swim, lift weights, play soccer, play basketball, take a bath. I'm kind of embarrassed, but I like taking baths. Put the hot water on. Just sit in there. Light some candles. Don't think about school. Bubbles are always good. Share what annoys you about your job with your friend. If your friend is a teacher also, then your friend can talk about what annoys them, and you could say, gosh, the same things annoy both of us. You can have a good laugh about that. Maybe watch a movie. You can take your mind off of all of your stress. I like to watch comedies, but any kind of movie will reduce your stress. If you have a pet, play with your pet, your cat, your dog, your horse, your fish. Maybe you have a parrot. Celebrate the things that you are proud of. Maybe you have a student who is really improved in your class. Think about what has gone right in your teaching career so far. That'll help you reduce your stress. You're making a difference in a lot of people's lives. Prepare a great lesson. Don't wait till the last minute to prepare your lessons because this causes stress. Try to write a bunch of lessons ahead of time so that you can reduce your stress. Maybe clean your house or your car. Having a dirty or unorganized house or car can cause stress. Tidy up. Now, this next one is called writing a hate letter. And when I say hate, I don't mean you actually hate the person that you're writing the letter to, but write a letter telling someone exactly what you think of them, or maybe write a letter saying that you're stressed out because you've got all these different things to do and you're really upset about it. And then once you write the letter, throw it in the trash. Rip it up and throw it away. And that really will help you to kind of get everything out. You can take a trip. Trips don't have to be expensive. You can go to the park, go to the lake, go to the mall. Drive out into the country and just park and just walk around and enjoy nature. There's lots of places outside of Kansas City. You can go outside and just walk around, watch the farmers harvesting the crops. You can meditate to relieve stress. Sometimes when you're doing your meditation, you can pray. I pray for my students and my school. I pray for my country. I pray for wisdom, patience, knowledge, peace. Some people participate in yoga and they say it really relieves their stress. The combination of physical exertion, stretching, meditation relaxes a lot of different people. So hopefully you can use some of those techniques to reduce the stress that you're feeling. And this brings us to the end of part 1 of our 2-part training. And I will be back with part 2 in just a few minutes.